Favorite streaming platform, Spotify.
Everyone's favorite streaming platform, Spotify. Reporting from Consequence of Sound, which is Randy Graves, hopes to have this new pay transparency website that will hopefully, I love how it's titled, make all those annoying protests go away.
Basically, the Stop Spotify protest, the union of United Artists going up saying Spotify, we need to pay us more, and everything that we've been saying on this podcast for the past 4 years.
Yeah. So, reading from the article, the Loud and Clear website provides a high-level overview of how payments are distributed. While Big Green Circle declines to get specific, it does include some ballpark numbers, such as that it pays out about 2/3 of its earnings to right holders. More on them later. This is an Audioface listener right here. This has to be
the Big Green Circle. That's what I'm gonna call Spotify from now on.
This has to be it. The Audioface listener immediately.
100%.
These are some alarming statistics designed to put streaming numbers in context. For example, in 2020, about 13,000 artist catalogs generated at least 50,000 in royalties. Of those, approximately 7,800 catalogs earned more than 100,000 royalties, and 870 topped 1 million. So that was a lot of numbers for the podcast. That's basically, if you could picture a triangle, and I'm going to
it's
like
worse than
the
fucking
basement.
golf, dude. I thought golf had a disparity in like the pro ranks. Jesus.
So the top 13,400 artists, which might be like many of the artists we like, make at least 50,000 royalties. So to be fair, this is at least, not average. Average is a big bullshit number because you can play around with those at least. But at least that means like a low bar. I mean, $50,000 in a lot of places where artists tend to live is not living things. But if you roll that from a couple of different, if you roll that from a couple of different platforms, maybe you can make
exactly. If you got your merch sales, if you got tickets and stuff from concerts, but concerts don't exist right now, so that's
more on that later.
Revenue shit.
Approximately 7,800 catalogs earn more than $100,000, so that's nice money. And then 870s, that's a smaller number of that 7,800.
Your Drakes of the world,
between 400. There's Taylor Swift's, your sadly Lana Del Rey's, topped $1 million.
Yes.
And they're talking about how they know everything about diversity. Blackface Drake. So Spotify, I'm going to go back to the article again. Spotify also includes graphs that show these numbers increasing over time. Let's see. I'm kind of going into some other here. So the part that's like more on that later is like here, spend more than a few minutes using the Loud and Clear tools, and it's clear that there's less clear than meets the eye. To say the obvious, there's a huge difference between an artist earning 50,000 and an artist catalog garnering the same amount.
Yeah.
And that brings us back to the pesky rights holders. So the labels, the distributors, and aggregators that Spotify pays directly, those people are taking their cut as it goes along the chain, not going all the way down. So that's the whole point. Artist catalogs. Artists oftentimes don't own their music. And so these labels are taking their cuts. Now, Spotify did, ancillarily to this, again, being overly fair to them, talk at one point about having a thing where they were going to have like artists directly upload to the platform. And so like oddly Spotify be the middle person, but if it's just the platform being the middle person, that's going to happen on SoundCloud or like Bandcamp or anywhere else most of the time. So then you don't have a label and you can represent yourself. You still have to do all the label work. Spotify's trying to help with that, but that doesn't really exist yet. And other platforms are trying to do the same. Honestly, I wouldn't trust Spotify to do it, but if SoundCloud or Bandcamp tried something like this, would be awesome. But yeah, there's a handy-dandy video on the website called How the Money Flows, which uses elevator music, a relaxing voice, and PowerPoint quality visuals to make the case that artists signed a contract and are getting exactly what they deserve.
Nope.
This is where it gets kind of union busty sounding. And like makes sense because there's justice at Spotify, there's a union of musicians and allied workers who've been pressuring Spotify to not only be more transparent about their payments, which is this is a step towards, but there's still a lot being hidden. I think is really excellently put out in this article. But artists need to get paid more. There's a larger piece of this pie. I'm gonna try to look up like Spotify's revenue because like right now I see or maybe like you could look that up or I continue reading this. Like look up their revenue from 2020, like totally. In the streaming era, fans do not pay per song, so we don't believe in a per stream rate is a meaningful number to analyze. Reading from their website. Instead, the company points to the $5 billion it paid out to rights holders in 2020 as evidence that Spotify generates more money for rights holders than any other streaming service. I think it's interesting. I
9.5 billion.
$9.5 billion. They made $9.5
Users
billion.
paid, yeah. Spotify hits 155 million paid users, 9.5 billion in revenue in
And they said they paid
2020.
$5 billion out to rights holders. So
Rights holders?
again,
Interesting.
that's to the people who hold the licenses.
Yeah,
so
I
eventually,
understand
a sliver of that $5 billion is going to artists.
Yes.
And when you go around the streaming services, that's not something like bulk out or be mad at. But you can see how that money becomes pennies very quickly for those 13,400 who they tried to prop up and say, look at this big number making this modest number. Hey, check this out. Look at what Spotify's doing. We're redistributing the wealth. We're goddamn socialists over here, bringing Northern European socialism over to the masses. This is more smoke and mirrors from Spotify, so watch this space. We're going to be covering that.
Yes.
Spent a lot of time on Spotify, honestly.
We did.